Hello and welcome once again to this Radio Gaming Tech video of myself, Marto. As always, I'm here with the latest news from the tech world in the last 24 or so hours. Today we're going to kick things off with a bit of an update regarding Intel, 5G and Apple. Now you may remember I touched on a little while ago about how, due to the fact that Intel have pulled out of the 5G modem business, they are looking to sell those assets, that being patents, and of course the engineers to go alongside of it. And one of the key people that was reported to be sort of first in line in terms of how much they're bidding and so on to actually purchase these patents was Apple. And according to a new report from the Wall Street Journal, they have been negotiating with Intel and very close to signing a deal. And if it all goes well and to the report's expectations, we could see an official announcement as early as next week. And apparently Apple are going to be paying over $1 billion for the privilege of having these patents and, of course, the engineering talent to go along with it. Interestingly, Apple and Qualcomm dropped finally their legal dispute against each other. You may recall there was a bit of back and forth for quite some time of the two of them basically kicking each other in the shins in court. And they have basically sorted that whole business out. And Apple has a new deal to use Qualcomm in its chips, for the next 6 years. So it's clearly the long game. We're not going to be seeing Apple chips using the Intel 5G tech anytime soon, but Apple clearly has its heart set on making its own chips in-house, and this is just one of the moves it's making to be able to do that, to move away from Qualcomm as much as they can, and of course rely only upon themselves. So let's move on to a very interesting report from Gartner regarding PC memory prices. So, if these reports are correct, as we have multiple analysts including Gartner stating this, we can expect to see further declines in PC memory prices, as according to Gartner, memory manufacturers are inundated by that all familiar unsold inventory, and this is apparently going to push prices down 42.1% in 2019. Which, unsurprisingly, is a huge drop, and they even go further to say that the oversupply situation is going to extend into the second quarter of 2020. So if their report is correct, we can expect to see these prices continue for quite some time. And I have a bit of a statement here from Ben Lee, the Senior Principal Research Analyst at Gartner, who said, quotes, "The semiconductor market is being impacted by a number of factors. A weaker pricing environment for memory and some of the chip types combined with the US-China trade dispute and lower growth in major applications, including smartphones, servers and PCs, is driving the global semiconductor market to its lowest growth since 2009. And you may recall that there was that recent report from IC Insights which also said that we're going to be seeing a steep decline in the average selling price of memory chips. Now, what's really interesting is that we kind of have a contradictory report from DRAM Exchange and KBS World Radio. This is a bit of an update as well to something I discussed a while back. You may recall how I talked about how there was a power outage at Toshiba's production base, and that in itself could lead to an increase in NAND and DRAM prices. And we now have a bit of an update to this, as there's a new report on DRAM Exchange and from KBS World Radio again, basically saying that we did see a price rise by roughly 20% between July the 5th and July 20th. And they said that the spot price of 8GB DDR4 DRAM averaged $3.74 on the market close last week. And to put that in some sort of context, it was roughly a 23% increase over July the 5th and 14% higher than it was on July the 13th. Now, apparently these were not attributed to changes in supply and demand, so this is most likely caused by that power outage that I discussed myself. So that small bump is expected to be short-lived as the effects of that kind of dwindle, and we are expected to again see these more longer-running decreases in PC memory prices. So if perhaps you were toying with getting yourself a bit of a memory upgrade, I would say hold off for now and see what happens. So we got a very interesting listing next from Khronos Group, which may have something to do with Navi. Well, I say may have something to do with Navi, absolutely does have something to do with Navi. If you look down the product list that is showing on the screen, you will quite plainly see GCN 1.6, which means one thing and one thing only, Navi. And this is under undisclosed products. Now you'll also notice that there are several products here listed, and also a few multi-GPU products. So what does this actually mean? Well, it's a very good sign that we can expect to see an upcoming multi-GPU Navi-based graphics card. So to put that in plainer terms, a couple of Navi dies and one PCB, but also several more Navi unreleased GPUs. So we can pretty much expect that the Navi 14 card that we've done so many rumours and reports on as of late is one of those, and probably a Pro variant as well. So given that this is the Khronos Group's listing, obviously we don't know what these cards are. They could literally be the 5700 XT Pineapple Edition, where it's slightly better clock speed. Obviously I'm being silly and facetious, but you get my point. We don't know what they are. They could literally be anything. But what we do know is that these are several, as of yet, unannounced Navi GPUs. And of course, we kind of knew that the 5700 XT and the 5700 Vanilla were not going to be it in terms of what we saw from AMD in terms of Navi architecture. There's several reports of more cards next year, as well as another one this year as well, depending on which report you go with. So, even ignoring all of that, it just makes sense for AMD to release more products, a bit more on the lower end, middle, and obviously a Pro edition as well. So I'm really curious to see what these actually are. Obviously we can't tell any details other than the fact they are Navi, and one of them is a multi-GPU. That is literally all we can glean from this listing, unfortunately, so it's pretty useless to speculate as to what these could be because, well, the possibilities are pretty limitless. So let's finish things up, shall we, with a bit of an update from Nintendo. So a bit of backstory before I go on to what Nintendo have actually said here, in case you have missed it, because it is fairly new news, as weird as that statement is to say. There was a class action lawsuit filed against Nintendo for the Switch JoyCon drift issue, and you might go, what do you mean? And I'm sure many of you have experienced drift on your controllers at some point in your life as a gamer. Basically, drift is when analog sticks randomly move and input commands when you're not actually touching them or moving them yourself. It's also see things inside are moving when they shouldn't be. And there have been issues reported of Joy-Cons having this drift. And there are even users who have reported that multiple controllers have experienced this problem, so it's not even just a one-off for them, like they've got it in their vanilla set that comes with the console, just for example, and then they buy a new set, oh, that one has it as well. But essentially what has happened is that a class action lawsuit has been filed against Nintendo for these Switch drift issues, and here's a bit of a summary of the lawsuit. Quote, CSK&D has filed a class action lawsuit against Nintendo of America for claims relating to alleged defects in the Joy-Con controllers that are part of Nintendo Switch gaming consoles. The complaint, filed in the United States District Court for the Western District of Washington, alleges that the joysticks on Joy-Con controllers are defective, leading users to experience drift issues. Specifically, the complaint alleges that the joystick on the Joy-Con controllers will automatically register movement when the joystick is not being controlled by the user and interfere with gameplay. The complaint, filed on behalf of purchasers of Switches and Joy-Con controllers, brings claims under various consumer protection statutes as well as various warranty and common law claims. So, as my introduction to this topic kind of implied, Nintendo have officially not confirmed, that's the wrong word, they've responded. They've issued a statement about the Joy-Con issue, most likely in response to the class action lawsuit. And they have issued this statement to TheVerge.com, and they have said, quote, at Nintendo we take great pride in creating quality products and we are continuously making improvements to them. We are aware of recent reports that some Joy-Con controllers are not responding correctly. We want our consumers to have fun with Nintendo Switch, and if anything falls short of this goal, we always encourage them to visit support.nintendo.com so we can help. So it's a response, but it's not really an answer, which is something that I've kind of touched on before with something unrelated. So it is a response, but it doesn't answer the question and is vague and obviously is not saying anything specific. But to be fair to Nintendo, that's exactly what they should be doing at this time because, again, class action lawsuits are no joke. And they can take a very, very long time as well. I'm sure you recall how long the one for the PS3 took before we finally saw resolution to that. I think I remember doing a video on that, and by the time my channel was created, the PS3 was ancient history, basically. So It's going to be a while before we hear anything about this class action lawsuit, most likely. How long, I can't say. I don't have my crystal ball, unfortunately, but it's going to be an interesting one to be sure. And if you look at the report from The Verge, which is rather well written, I will say, it's worth a read for sure, they speculate that the potential cause is dust or debris making its way into the controller, and some of the contacts inside when users have actually disassembled the controller have been found to be a bit worn, so that also could be causing the issue as well. And obviously you are going to see wear and tear on a controller or any item with moving parts as it's used, but I would hope that they would last a little bit longer. The Switch is not really that old of a console, so if it's one that's been bought at launch, then yeah, you might start to see some wear and tear. But given how expensive the Joy-Cons are, it's $80 for a pair, just to kind of refresh your memory. I would hope that they have some quite some staying power. But it's going to be interesting to watch for sure. Let me know your thoughts on everything discussed in this video, guys. As always, your support is highly appreciated. Do remember to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.